The last topic we wanted to talk to you about, Miriam, was this indication that the International Olympic Committee is now rethinking the idea of having biological men in women's sports. Are you feeling quite positive about this?
I mean, yes, it's obviously a victory for common sense, and obviously delighted for female athletes. I mean, I cannot imagine how frustrating it must be to train your whole life and be extremely talented, and then to see that you're entered alongside a man and can't possibly win simply because of the biological disadvantage. So yes, of course, this is a good thing, and I think it speaks to how this debate is changing globally actually now, and that people are starting to wake up out of this very foolish dream that men can be women. But I mean, isn't it insane that we are at the most scientifically advanced point in history? You know, and we've had these most incredible scientific discoveries and technological discoveries over the last 100 years. And yet we somehow now need science to tell us something that all humanity has known empirically for 100,000 years, that men have a strength, a speed, a fitness advantage over women. I mean, isn't it just insane? And I think it really, it really punctures this idea that we have progress, that humanity goes through, there's an arc towards progress. Because, yeah, we make technological advancements and discoveries, that's absolutely true. But human nature doesn't progress. You know, we're just as susceptible to the same kind of foolish thinking, magical thinking, superstition that our ancestors were before the joys of science. So I think we've just been too arrogant, really, about our ability to think our way out of problems, and we should just be a bit more empirical.
We were discussing earlier, there seems to be this report that's been going around that actually men do have a physical advantage over women.
No way!
They were presented with this mind-blowing research.
And that's allowed them to change their mind. But it goes back to, they're not allowed to believe something. Yeah. So they're not allowed to believe that men are stronger than women. They have to wait for a report that makes it socially acceptable for them to then say, oh, well, actually, this might be right.
Yeah, on social acceptability, Tom, do you think that their hand has really been forced by sort of female sports personalities who have been campaigning for this doggedly, or more just a general vibe shift where ideologies like trans are becoming more acceptable?
I think that's a huge part. And there's been people who've been campaigning on this for so many years, very lonely fight for a long time. Sharon Davis, etc., have been absolutely fantastic. And just really pointing out what is at stake, because obviously we realise when it makes its way up to the Olympics, your man Laurel Hubbard from New Zealand, you know, competing in women's weightlifting, not doing particularly well, but nevertheless he shouldn't have been there in the first place. The Imani Khalif horror show at the last Olympics, who incidentally seems to be one of the people who has a DSD, as they say in the lingo, someone who is essentially biologically male but was, you know, confused for female at birth. Slightly different kettle of fish, but nevertheless, you know, essentially you've got a biological male punching women in the face in a boxing ring. If that's not going to break the spell, I don't know what would. But it's one of those things where it's, how do these institutions get captured in the first place? You've got the Olympics, it's doing one thing, which is trying to create fair competition for the best athletes in the world to compete against one another, and they couldn't even do that. And as I was saying, it's the things below that which are also concerning and also won't have changed as a result of this, which is just grassroots sports, lower level sports, everything from park runs to something a bit more organised and official, are still infested with all this stuff. And that still becomes a way in which a girl or a young woman who's talented is going to be pushed out of a sport that she could excel in purely because there's a bloke there who shouldn't be there. So that's where the battle continues, I suppose. But it is good to see that this has happened finally, or seems to be happening, I should say.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe this is a bit of a difficult question, Miriam, but for all of the great sportswomen who have been fighting against this for a long time, there have also been sportswomen, mainly from individual sports, interestingly, who have been very pro-men in women's sports. I wonder, what do you think that is? Is it sort of fear, or is it they genuinely are for this?
I mean, I don't know without speaking to them, but I think certainly women are much more susceptible to this idea of this woke idea of fairness and compassion, which I don't think is true fairness and compassion, but the idea that compassion is basically giving people what they want, and that the worst harm you can possibly inflict is to hurt somebody's feelings or make them feel excluded. And of course, that is the way that we should operate around children or people who don't have agency. You know, we do owe them a duty of compassion. But when you inflict that compassion on grown men who should know better, then it is just damaging and ridiculous. But women are conditioned to be kind. And, you know, we probably naturally are more kind in the sense that, our biological role is to care for very small dependent babies, and being kind and compassionate is what keep those babies alive. But when that compassion is applied to grown men who want to wear dresses and go into women's changing rooms, then it's obviously a misapplication of that compassion. But you can see how girls particularly are dragged along in it, and that's why girls are more liberal and woke generally. But I don't know. I mean, what you think about gender is such a proxy for your wider political beliefs, your social status, that you can, it's perfectly understandable why some sportswomen are more interested in appearing kind and not being cancelled than they are in fairness, because it's a difficult debate for them.
Definitely.